Hi everyone. I want to show you how you can use Excel's relatively new map charts to draw data and map it globally. And one of the things I want to point out is how you can attempt to make a timeline and how you can attempt to make the map working. Now, as you will see quite soon, the reason why I'm saying attempt is because one thing is you can't really do a timeline in Excel chart maps the way you'd like it to be, and also there's a lot of, you have to get lucky, and this is my probably many-th attempt at getting this video right, not the least because Excel keeps tricking me, and that's not so much down to my lack of experience, but probably more so that although map charts have been around since version 2019, and even in the Office 365 fostering as of current date, they're still a bit dodgy. So basically what I did, I wanted to find data that's timelineable, so to say, and I figured what you're looking at will really do the job, and I'll link where the data is from. But for those of you who like to know the details, it's from initially the Canadians, the infection prevention and control, and then that links through here into this website, which then links into a supposedly downloadable Google Sheet, which actually isn't downloadable at all, but you can manually copy paste data out of it, and it's more the idea. And one of the challenges I specifically wanted to play on with the maps here is that look at data that has country level and sub-country level. So, you know, with this one, for example, you have mainland China and provinces, but then you have certain countries where you have province equivalents and other countries where you just have the countries. And so I did kind of want to confuse Excel, but then I think, you know, in some cases you do want to break down details, and in some cases you choose not to do that. So really it's good for what we're trying to achieve here. And yeah, a lot of this video is going to be caveats, so if you're looking for a straight this is how to do magic, then I'm not sure you're going to find it, but if you want to learn from it, then it's going to be quite useful. So what I did, I have the data from, well, part of the data from the previous website here by day, and then I have my main sheet, and I'll undo these just so that I don't spoil all the fun. So what we then have here is the countries and the regions, and things I wanted to show you. So this is basically a very long-winded VLOOKUP plus indirect combination, and for those of you that don't know indirect, you can try to decipher what I have up there, but basically the good thing about indirect is that you can do individual cell, function, formulae, embeddings into other cells and functions. So if you have a look at it, that basically calls the sheet name as it appears here converted into that format. So basically in this specific column it's looking for this sheet, and in that column it's looking for that sheet, and it's quite autonomous. So I have videos on how to use indirect, so I'm not really going to go into it here. If you are not comfortable with indirect, you can do it the more manual, pointing at the individual sheets. So essentially it's just a bit of a lookup. Now I will show you what I initially did and how you can confuse Excel, annoyingly enough. So in my mind, I think what would be sensible is to say you have Australia, New South Wales, Australia, Victoria, and Cambodia is not being broken down into anything, so you would have Cambodia, and then you would have Canada, Ontario, da-di-da-di-da. So my initial plan was to have A2 and comma space and B2, and ignore that the lookups now come back with 0 because obviously I haven't updated it on these sheets, so it's not going to find the lookups. But let's do the same logic just here, so that we get some data going back on the first sheet. Okay, so yeah, now it's been updated for this sheet only, so that you see those data. And what my expectation would be that if I was to go into insert and maps, it would then be able to map this up, because again, you know, Germany, Bavaria is sensible, Canada, Ontario is sensible, and it basically tells us, no can do, doesn't make sense, which I think is a bit silly. So that the message here is that you have to get lucky and sensible, but not in a human way, to make this work with Excel. And lo and behold, if I delete this whole thing and go back to the initial logic, which was just this, and go back and do it on every sheet, which only really refers to this one, and do the same thing again, it will work. So you get the idea. It now works, kind of, because if you click on this one, it will say, we only managed to do 2/3 of what you asked for, and then it doesn't tell you what might be missing, what may have been mixed up. You know, theoretically, you could have New South Wales, Australia being mapped into Wales, UK, and you wouldn't know it. Now, you know, from here the colours, it makes it obvious that Australia seems to have been done the way it should be, even though, yes, we have a 0 value, but at least, you know, it's not Wales, UK, but you know where I'm going with this. So that's one of the things. But if you just want to know how to use the map chart and you don't want to know anything else, then then this is where the video might end for you. But I do want to point out a whole bunch of things you can and you can't do. And one thing I've been trying to play with is get certain usual things to achieve some level of a timeline. So one of the issues you have is that in chart elements you can have data labels, but that will only show for things that are physically large enough to fit. And yes, you can make data labels have a different size, but you don't really have the sort of opportunity for changing details as you have with other charts. And even if you go into more data label options, if the whole thing doesn't crash, or, well, clearly nothing happened, then, you know, well, now there's some stuff. And, yeah, you see it's not really the same quality as you tend to get. You can't do much change, and there's a genuine lack of customizability. So that's one thing. The other thing you can't do is you can't change the scale. So for the 26th of January, the top number was 1058. So what you would want to have for any sort of a timeline is a fixed scale where you could then, you know, move throughout time, and then numbers throughout time change and the colors kind of remain same and relevant. Because if we now change the source data to be the day after, the top number is going to remain some shade of dark blue, but then the actual number behind it doesn't change. So it's not particularly friendly. Nonetheless, I'll give you ideas how you can do timelines, and we'll use a level of PowerPoint slash Excel slash some level of mini magic, and again, it's not going to be as perfect as you might expect it to be. So just hold your horses. So one thing you probably want to do is get a separate column and just say get your data, and we'll do some level of a lookup, because I could just say that and ignore that it's a date format or a number format. We can just do date and just do 1. And I know this could be done many ways, and there are neat ways to do this, but you'll see where I'm going with it. So you can then do, I'll just do an index match. That's the array number is whatever the current row number is, and column number is going to be a match. A lookup value is that, and we're doing it here. Match type 0. The assumption is that match and a few other things, so I won't quite go into all the details. But basically what you end up having is that if I now change this to 1, it will take the next day, and then the next day, and the next day. So you can then just take this little piggy and actually, if I move these, let's move these out of the way, because I want to have the headers. Call it region and make that 0. So what you can do now is do as you did a moment ago. You stick in your map, and when you do it the first time, it tells you that this is going to connect to Bing and it's going to send information to Bing, and you see it now. China's totally just effed up, because we're missing all of China, because now decided that actually I don't really know what Hubei is. So it worked here, it doesn't work here. So you have to get lucky, and frankly I shall attempt to undo this, but I have no high hopes on it, because it's not me being inefficient, it's Excel being inefficient. And basically what I was starting to say was that when you do it the first time, Excel warns you that data is going to be sent to Bing and Microsoft, which really is just to say that there's no expectation that Excel in its own offline world knows what New South Wales is. It sends data to the cloud and it consults whatever information sources, and those information sources tell Excel that China doesn't quite exist, but hey, Russia does, and there's no value to it. So totally ignoring that this is really poor, you can copy this and you can just do a PowerPoint. And yes, start a new one and just paste it as you want to embed. So why don't we just paste it? Well, actually, you don't have to embed it, and I'll leave it as the size as it was, because what I'm trying to achieve here is now have a new slide, and now just change it to 1. And again, this is it's still missing China, which in this case is quite a big point of the whole trick here. And now I'm just pasting stuff in, and what you want to make sure, okay, so see, Excel updated, which is not good. So you could undo that undo that. Let's go. I'm still trying to achieve your timeline. So copy and paste. I mean, you can always paste as a picture, which gives limited capabilities for editing later, but you kind of know where I'm going with this. So paste as picture, and new slide, don't care, and then 2. This is tedious, and obviously one could do a macro to handle a lot of this. I am happy to show you how to do Excel to macro, Excel to PowerPoint macros in a separate video if anyone's curious about them. This is not the point here. Okay, so now we have the timeline, and I'm not going to bother making this split because it's not the point, but what you have is, day 1, and next slide, and next slide, and I'm not sure there's a next slide, and assume this worked properly, and we would have China and Australia, you could have some sort of a timeline happening here, and you can make it more automated in terms of change slide every such and such seconds and that sort of stuff. Clearly. And the thing is, map charts are kind of new, but they've been around a long-ish time, which is to say, I'm using 365 Insider, but this has been out in a public release in 2019, and then normal 365, not insiders, have it watched the way I do. So I think it's a good initiative, and it's a lot better than some of the previous examples. Like if you search for Maps Excel YouTube, you'll find a lot of horrendously convoluted copy paste the PNG image and then try to overlay information on it. Not doable. So I hope this was vaguely useful, and as I said, if you want to play with the data, I'll link in this one and this one, or you can use whatever data you want. And well, good luck with it, and anyone affected by this madness, good luck with that too. Get well and don't panic. But thanks for watching. Any comments you may have, drop a line please, and do come back for more. Thank you.